They silenced us, erased our stories, buried our truths where they thought no one would dig.
His name was Tobe, a wiry boy from a poor suburb outside the capital, where gutters overflowed with filth and mornings smelled of burnt hope. His father was a welder, his mother a roadside food seller. Together they earned just enough to keep the roof from falling, though not enough to stop the rain from coming through it. Tobe didn't speak much, but he listened. He listened to how the adults cursed the government in low voices, how neighbors made jokes out of pain, how every Anthem sung at school felt like a bad joke no one laughed at anymore. One morning during assembly, the principal barked, "Stand straight, sing the national anthem with pride." And the students began dragging through the lines like worn-out prayers. But Tobe didn't sing. He stood silent. The principal noticed. "You, boy, why aren't you singing?" Tobe looked up and said, "Because I don't believe in the words." Gasps followed, laughter, then silence. That night, he was sent home with a warning slip. His father stared at it long and hard, then looked at Tobe. "You don't believe in the anthem?" he asked. Tobe shrugged. "It says we're one, but they treat us like we're invisible." His father said nothing. But the next day, when Tobe reached into his school bag, he found a note folded inside his math book. It read, "Then write one we can believe in." Tobe did. At night, under the flicker of a naked bulb, he scribbled verses in the margins of old newspapers. He wrote about honesty and hunger, about mothers with callous hands, and fathers who didn't sleep. He wrote about children walking miles to school, about roads that swallow cars, about dreams stuck in traffic. But he also wrote about hope, about neighbors who shared their last Gary, about teachers who taught without pay, about the girl in his class who dreamed of becoming a president. Even though they laughed at her, 2 weeks later, he read his new anthem aloud during assembly. He hadn't planned to. It just happened. The principal asked someone to recite the official anthem. Tobe stepped forward and said, "Can I try something different?" They let him. He stood on a rusted platform in sandals too small for his feet and began. "Arise, not with empty hands, but with hearts that remember, not with blind praise, but with open eyes. Let our anthem be sweat, not slogans. Let it be the sound of street sellers, the rhythm of mothers praying at dawn, the beat of students walking for miles. This land is bruises, but it still breathes. And as long as it breathes, so do we." No one clapped, not because they didn't like it, but because they didn't know what to do with truth that raw. The video leaked online. Someone's cousin had filmed it. Within days, it had millions of views. Radio hosts recited his lines on air. Activists began printing them on shirts. One politician tried to plagiarize it. He was quickly exposed. University students adopted it for their protests. A group of lawyers presented it in a public hearing on civic reform. Even a pop star sampled it in a viral track. The government frowned. Some said the boy was being used. Others called him a rebel. But the people? They called him a mirror. A senator tried to meet him. Cameras ready. Tobe declined. When asked why, he said, "They want me to explain pain to them like they didn't cause it." Eventually, a new movement began, rewriting the anthem, not just literally, but figuratively. Citizens began to rewrite their own roles, fixing, building, resisting, voting. It wasn't a perfect revolution, but something had shifted, and it started with a boy who didn't sing what didn't feel true. Years later, when Tobe became a journalist, his words continued to echo in newspapers, on stages, in villages where people still remembered that morning in the schoolyard, and in classrooms across the country. A new tradition began. Each year, on National Integrity Day, students are asked to write their own version of the anthem, not to replace it, but to remind them that patriotism is not blind praise. It's the courage to demand better. Subscribe to this channel. Like and share this video to watch more life-changing and inspiring stories.